Привет из Сингапура. С вами передача «Голубь мира», где разбираем крутые навыки, спрашиваем на английском, отвечаем на русском. Подтягивайте язык или смотрите перевод в тайм-кодах. Let's talk about stenography and let's start with the definition.
Стенография this is well known and very ancient art, and it's happened maybe from the ancient Greeks. I don't know exactly, but it was a man whose name is Cicerone, and he was a very famous orator. He was doing speech in a brilliant way, and he have a slave, and I don't remember his name, but I will Tyr, maybe Tyr, it was name, and there was a saying, "Тирановы ноты" in Russian language. Notes, it's mean not note which we play as a music, but notes as notation. And this slave developed a way how to write down speeches of his master, and he was using small, slightly changed letters of Greeks, and suddenly he understands that he could invent by the frequency of using some part of the words another alphabet and another way how to record it. And from this time started this very ancient art. There is two saying about this. First is stenography, and another is narrow writing, узкопись. Why? Because when we will use just usual letter of our language, they are very wide. But in stenography, we will use always lines which are going from down, from the bottom to the top, and and they also have some angle.
In terms of this skill of writing fast and efficient way, what are the fundamentals and principles?
First, you should understand that this is another language you should learn. For example, if you know Russian language and English or Italian or I don't know, Japan language, you know all the letters. But to learn Russian or Japanese or Chinese stenography, it's another kind of letters or signs, and no way to know how to write if you don't know this language. Second, you should use some kind of memorizing, for example, some kind of metaphors. When you will write in Russian, letter I, it is just a small diagonal line. And we also always use some word. If this sign for I, you should use word for I. And a lot of people who has their own understanding how to use these letters. There are two types of languages. Some of them use all kind of letters. For example, согласные и assonance and dissonance.
Something similar.
Vocals.
Need to think about.
Окей, согласные и несогласные, да? И получается, а есть языки такие, допустим, как израильский, there are no вот, гласных в нем, они пишут только согласными. И то же самое происходит, the same things happen with your stenography. For example, in Russian version of stenography, there are no 33 signs of it if we could expect, but only 26. For example, E and E краткое is the same letter. Е and Ё with two dots is the same letter. For example, we do not use мягкий знак or твердый знак.
And in terms of the levels of mastery of acquiring the skill, what are they and how fast it's actually possible to possess such knowledge?
First level to write by stenography is to know a lot of science from mathematics, physics, and so on. For example, V, it could be for victory, for volume, or for velocity. For example, small m, this is about mass. For example, P, this is about impulse. For example, just opposite A, it's about everyone or everything. So this is the first level. Second level, to know all the letters and use letter by letter. It's very long way, and this is not a stenography. And the last one, when you know some kind of, it's called bigramma. 2 or 3 letters all together. For example, some приставки, корни, суффиксы, окончания, и прям вот целиком вы их пишете. Допустим, пре, да, допустим, пре, там, вышение, да, пре, высокий. Или, например, там, скажем, прибытие, прибыть, да, и получается, вы пишете не буквочки, а вы пишете целые морфемы. Морфемы – это части слов.
And in terms of using stenography with the technology, like what is the possible to only use something besides of the pen and paper, or it's still old school, like or like a classic, and there is no way around of it?
I don't know nothing which could be used instead of pen and paper. Yes, it could be pencil, but still the paper. There are no stenography, for example, in Russian or English languages for computers. But in Chinese language, there are two ways to write the things. First is traditional language, or for example, Mandarin or Canton. And another one is Chinese simplified, and it is a small similarity to stenography, but very small.
And in terms of the actuality of the skill, like who are the people who will need to have the skill, and whether it's still something that troubleshooters or other people should learn?
I will tell you several stories, and some of them are funny. When I was starting to learn stenography, it was a very long time ago. I was starting to learn blend typing, but not on the computer, but on the printing machines. And the limit which we should show, it was like 180 buttons per minute. Now I could use with keyboards like 500, but it was not possible with this long leverages. And about this stenography, I was also on the third course of Kyiv Polytechnical Institute. And when I started to write this down, I was happy my conspect was not stolen. It was a time when there are no Xerox, no copying machines, but sometimes if your почерк, your writing,
Not writing.
your writing is good, your conspect could be stolen by some people who don't want to attend the lectures. But it was several times when people asked me, could you give us conspect? I was saying, yes, for sure, you could look at it, but you would refuse. And everyone was saying, do not touch Bragинski because his conspect is useless.
It could be some like some sort level of security if you want to protect your property. So in terms of the mistakes which people make when they're trying to use stenography and actually be more efficient, what types are they and how to avoid them?
You wouldn't believe, and our listeners and watchers wouldn't believe me. But if you do not use blind typing, speed reading, or stenography for example, 3 weeks, you will lose it. First, you will lose the speed. Second, you will lose the ability to type or to write. So you should have a very strong need to use it every day. For example, for last 3 years, I used stenography the less and less amount of time, and now I will learn it from the beginning. Yes, would be easier for me because some letters I know, some part words I know, but anyway, that is not like driving a bicycle. When you are swimming or driving a bicycle, this is you will learn and you will remember it for a life. But with speed skills, there is nothing similar.
So it reminds me this movie called 70 Moments of Spring, where there were stenography ladies. And the thing is, while there was a meeting, they were sitting there and writing, and they were doing this synchronously so that one could change each another. And this is more about situation when you have a dedicated person who does stenography. But let's say when you are on the specific call or you need to have a face-to-face communication, and probably you still want to write notes down without losing the visual contact, what are the ways to do this? Like, should you make a time to write it down, or should you still maintain the conversation?
This depends from you. For example, when I was starting to learn blind typing, the main goal was for me not to look at the keyboard and to the sources. So I was typing and looking for someone who is talking and trying to complete my file with his and mine words. When I was trying to write stenography, for sure, for the very first time, you should sit and write all this letter or parts of the words, and you have no chances not to look at the paper. But when you do it often, for example, like 3 hour per week in a 6 months period, you will definitely switch from the paper to the man because you want to know exactly what is he not just saying but also showing. And when you make stenography, you will use this is not like a plain text, but you will fill the table: time, who, does, what, and saying what.
So it's actually was a question somehow relevant for me because even during our podcast, I'm also taking notes, and this is something that I also need to improve on. My last question will be how knowing about stenography could help to make this world a better place.
You know, our memory is very provocative things, and sometimes you would be sure that that agreement was the same way as configured in your head. But when someone show you how this was discussion and what you was saying, suddenly you will realize, yes, I am mistaken. I was thinking like this way, so this kind of condition could not be agreed. And when you also write everything on your paper, sometime you will go to negotiation with other people and you will remember them what's happened. For example, right now we have the next war with a company which give us square meters in business center in the center of Moscow, and they each, I don't know, 5 or 6 months try to attack us to give us some requests to pay them more money for something. And usually we just show them our block notes and we just read what is written, when, who was saying what, in which cabinet, in which conditions, at which weather, and they always make a wandering glasses and say, okay, yes, we remember, sorry to bother you.
Stenography is like a data tracking. It can keep people accountable. А мы рассмотрели навык стенография и чем он полезен именно вам. Всем мира!